orthopedic surgeon back in 1956, if I'm not mistaken. Before that, these problems, I'll explain what the problems were treated by the general surgeon. General surgeon was jack of all trades, master of none. And they had to do everything. Poor chaps had to do everything, which ranged from fractures of the skull, fractures of the limb, intra-abdominal injuries, and so on and so forth. In emergency situations like during the emergency post-war, they had to do everything with the help of a trained medical assistant. That's how because of that's because of the shortage of staff. Slowly, it started. There was a dichotomy. Fractures went one way, and together with them, things affecting the limbs, upper limbs, lower limbs. And because they attached to the body and to the axial skeleton, the spine, they included the spine. Basically, I would like to tell you that not all bone problems come, even though I've written it, conditions affecting bone, not all of them come to us. Basically, if there's an internal problem with the bone, yes, we might see. In fact, we refer that to a physician, metabolic conditions. But example, fractured skull. A fractured skull will not come to an orthopedic surgeon in our present day setup. It's the neurosurgeon who takes over, because the skull encases the brain. It's just next step. So to answer your question, it's not only fractures, also joints, soft tissues. Soft tissues of the limb include arteries, veins, nerves, muscles, the whole lot. So for our intents and purposes today, I'd like to say bones and joints, soft tissues in the limbs and spine. I think that will be a fair assessment.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Jayakumar, what about occupational medicine? Because it's rarely heard of, and one would not think that you need really an MBBS to go into this field. Could you educate us on this?
Okay, thank you very much, Barbara, for a kind introduction, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I like the way how Prof. Dave mentioned that orthopedics is a relatively new field. The first orthopedic surgeon, 1956. If you're looking at orthopedics as a new field, probably occupational medicine, occupational health, we are in the infantile stage, right? As Barbara, you alluded, a lot of people get confused with occupational health. They tell me in a social function, they will ask me, are you an occupational therapist, right? So there's a lot, and there's also a lot of confusion between occupational health and occupational medicine, though people think it's one and the same. If you are looking at occupational health, putting in a very simplistic manner, it is basically looking at the well-being of all workers, right? So promoting good work habits, promoting educating people. Okay, example, today in a COVID era, how do healthcare professional work? Right? There's a lot of do's and don'ts, right? So preventive measure, that's the occupational health component. The occupational medicine, it is a branch of medicine where it's basically looking at workplace, right? Looking at preventing, promoting, but also looking at treating, managing work-related diseases and injuries, right? So there's a component. It is a clinical branch of medicine, and it is a very relatively new field in this part of the world, or even globally. It probably kicked off more in the last 2 decades, 2.5 decades, because in 1994 we had the Occupational Safety Health Act that came in 1994, and after that things slowly started moving. And we cover many aspects of occupational diseases. Example, if you're looking at respiratory diseases, asthma, anything you do with work-related, right? General occupational health issues. Example, disabled. If you have someone who goes and sees Prof. Dave with a fracture of your leg, of your femur, and the person wants to get back to work after 3 months, what we call return to work. How do we adapt the person to the work, right? As much as possible these days, we want to get the person to the job as fast as possible, because as the longer that you keep a person away from the job, research shows that the chances of coming back to work decreases. It decreases like 50% after 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And occupational health, basically the emphasis, if you're looking in the context of Malaysia, we have a population of about 32 million.
Yep.
And the working population itself is about 15.2 million. So that will come up to about, we are looking at around 48%, about 50% of people are working, you see. And in the workplace, there are many hazards. We use this term hazards, potential to cause harm, So we call like biological hazards like COVID, right? Then we got chemicals, we have physical, um, lifting heavy objects, musculoskeletal backache, and then they end up with Prof. Dave with the orthopedic surgeons or the spine surgeons. And something different what we do as doctors is, in addition to sitting in the clinics, we need to visit the workplace. Because example, a person comes to me with a backache and says, I have a backache. There could be many reasons. It could be backache, many reasons. And one of the things that we want to look out is it the workplace? So if there is a workplace issue, then we need to get to the workplace to know what are the hazards there, how do we mitigate the problem, right? And in essence, we also engage with the community, right? Because we want to prevent the workplace. So that's basically, in a very nutshell, looking at occupational health or occupational medicine.
Excellent. Okay, that's most interesting. And I can already think of a few questions there that I would ask you later on. But, before we go into deeper things, Dr. Dave, how did you decide that it was orthopedics that you wanted to be in?
It's a very good question, Barbara. You see, actually, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do any surgical specialty. Eventually, as soon as I finished my final MB, I wanted to be a physician.
Okay.
It looks very odd, right? I wanted to be a physician, variously a physician, then become an anesthetist, something where I didn't have to do any calls, where you work from 8 to 4:15 in government service and chuck the whole thing and go home. But the turning point was, there were two turning points right at the very beginning and at the end of my 1 year housemanship. Those days, for all those who are not sure or not aware, we had the housemanship was 1 year. I'm talking about the mid-70s, yeah? Mid-70s, 1 year. The very first posting I had was internal medicine. I was overjoyed. I'm getting the first posting, which I really want to do it. But it sadly turned out to be just the antithesis and the anticlimax of the whole thing. I was just waiting when I could run off within 3 days from the ward. Not for anything else. I had a wrong view of this whole thing. The place looked like hell on a bad day, the whole ward. And you were being thrown around here, there, everywhere. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I somehow rather muddled through it, didn't get extended, thank God. Went to the next posting. Pediatrics was better. Then we did only 2 postings, 6 months. So it's medicine or surgery, ONG and medicine that way. Included in the medicine posting was pediatrics, which I looked at it and said, it's very good. You must know how to treat children. Then I went to general surgery. Not too bad, not too bad. But the clincher was in the last 3 months, I did orthopedics. Here, okay, partly I was already well versed with the system. You are coming from India, you don't know what's happening here. Everything was okay. But the main thing, I had a very good mentor, a professor of orthopedic surgery, UKM, the late Prof. Iqbal. God bless his soul. I don't know, he took a liking to a few, not me alone, to a few people, because he felt that we were hardworking. And he used to take the trouble to teach. That thing rubbed off onto me, even at a very tender age, mid-20s, as a houseman. And he taught us the correct way to approach an orthopedic problem, not wishy-washy. I don't blame any other specialist or consultant. They are very busy, and they have other priorities. But this gentleman, kind gentleman, took us under his wing and encouraged us to study for exams, postgraduate exams, kept on goading us. Every time we used to see him come in, we used to run out this side because he'll ask us, have we appeared for the exam? you know, and taught us step by step the basic principles. Why do you do this? You must know why do you do this. And in a short span of 3 months, the orthopedic posting, the last day when I finished, I decided that this was it. I'm going to do this. That's it. No two ways. That was in 1977 May. May when I finished. I eventually started only 6 years later formally to go for the exams. But I had a vast amount of experience, groundwork as a medical officer.
Right.
So that when we passed the exams in UK fellowship, we were almost as good as you can call a newly minted surgeon. Of course, you have to have experience, decision making. Yes. But I didn't feel at all like a fish out of water because we were grounded so well. We affectionately called him the old man, and yeah, and he was the singular person who guided me and made me make up my mind and do orthopedics.
And I'm sure a lot of the passion that your mentor, demonstrated during your time with him that inspired you to become an orthopedic surgeon, you are now applying it with your students when they take your classes, isn't it?
Barbara, that would be for them to tell me. I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. You see, I always loved teaching. So maybe that is what rubbed off from him. He was a professor for orthopedics UKM, and he instituted the master's program in Malaysia.
Right.
Under his tutelage, the first batch of masters in orthopedics came out in 1987, simultaneously in MU, UKM, and USM. He was the chairman of the board for postgraduate orthopedics.
Okay.
A successful implementation.
Yeah. So you were definitely very, very well trained under him and very well exposed. We'll come back to more questions about orthopedics, which is a favorite specialty of mine because I'm an absolute klutz. So, always knocking into things and breaking things I shouldn't be breaking in my body. So we'll definitely have lots to chat there.
Okay.
Now, in terms of Dr. Jayakumar, what about you? You did an MBBS, and then how did you actually come into occupational medicine and health?
Okay, quite interesting to listen to Prof. Dave. Some commonalities. When I was in a medical school, I had passion for. I was thinking, I need to be an obstetrician and gynecologist, because I did well as an undergraduate student, and when I was during my time, we had to do internship. I believe Prof. Dave also had to do internship in India.
Yep.
So I wrote to UK. I got the forms. I filled the forms and all. And when I came back, when I returned to Malaysia, my first posting was ONG, just like Prof. Dave. He did medicine that he wanted to do, and my first posting was in Kuala Lumpur Hospital. And I completed my posting. And then I reflected on it, I said, oh my God, I have no life, it's looking at two lives, one is the mother to be, and one is the child there's looking at two lives. And, it was, so it was a turning point after my first posting. I said, I don't think I want to spend my life like this, though it's a fantastic field. And in my undergraduate study, I never heard of the word occupational health or occupational medicine. We never did occupational health, right? So it was something new. And when I was posted to Malacca, I was posted to orthopedics. And I actually fell in love with orthopedics. I said, I need to do it, and I had a good boss then. And but it so happened after 6 months, I was transferred overnight to another department because, typically you're short of medical officers, and they transfer you with a promise, within 1 month they will bring you back. But I stayed on in another department. And during that point of time, my boss then, after 3 months, told me, there's a course for occupational health. None of the medical officers are keen to go. In fact, somebody is supposed to go on Monday, and it was Thursday next week. last minute he comes and gives me a medical leave and not able to go. Would you like to go? I said, yeah, but I said, boss, I've never heard of the occupational. I went. And after I came back, I kind of liked it, I said, oh, this is something very interesting. And as soon as I came back after some time, I went for a few courses and they made me as a coordinator. I was still a medical officer, right? And then I decided to pursue, and it was not easy because there were not many opportunities for occupational. Locally, I couldn't do. And I was pursuing going to UK, and then I realized cost factor. I have to spend 4 years there. And one day I saw an advertisement in a newspaper. At that time, was the New Straits Times was the most read. Um, and there was a full page advertisement by National NUS ASEAN Scholarship, and I said, okay, I will apply. I said the chance of me getting is very slim, because this is ASEAN countries, and it was few steps, we had to go, and fortunately I got it. And I met my professor was one Prof. David Ko. He was excellent. He's a mentor. He's today a friend, a lecturer, a friend, and a colleague, and we keep in touch until today. And that's how I got in there. I think to highlight what Prof Dave mentioned, you need a mentor. I think that's very important to have a mentor, to have that person to guide you, and to look up to that person. And it has been a good ride since then, occupational health and occupational medicine.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Dave, you mentioned that you were exposed to the specialty during your housemanship years, but you didn't take the step to go for your professional exams until much later. Why was that? And does it make a difference for students to not rush into an area of specialization? What can you share your specialization journey so that our listeners can learn from it?
Right. Okay, Barbara, you have two questions here.
Yes.
Essentially, two questions. Number one is why I took a bit long before I could embark on my journey post-graduation. Well, I have to give a bit of history. We go back again to late 70s. It is unlike what we see now. Here in the orthopedic department in General Hospital Melaka, there are 40 housemen, 20 medical officers. You're talking in multiples of 10.
Yeah.
In my time, if we had below 5, you're reaching 5, you're very lucky. Medical officers.
So how many patient beds were you manning?
The same hospital, 40, 50, they have not changed the number of beds. In fact, they have, it's just remaining the same.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we were one houseman in charge of one. I'm sure Prof. Jayakumar will attest to that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, but he's a young man. He's later than me. I'm talking about 70s. He won't be a 70s model.
Thanks for the compliments.
So there was what was a thing called requirements to sit for the exam by the Royal College of Surgeons, Edinburgh, Glasgow, England, Ireland, that sort of people. Yeah. Because they accepted candidates from Malaysia. Now, we are talking about pre-masters, before the masters was introduced in Malaysia. So they had to have some evidence that you had some training. So things went like 1 year of general surgery, 6 months of orthopedics, 6 months of accident emergency was the barest ED. That 6 months was the barest minimum, 2 years. So there itself 2 years went. But do you think your boss is going to say, okay, Davekumar, your time has come. Can you please go 1 year general surgery now? Everything fall, 1 year, then 6 months, 6 months. Oh, I think it's easier to fly to the moon than to get that in KL. I too work in KL.
Yeah.
In between, they say, go as Prof. Jayakumar, go and do here. I was supposed to do 6 months in emergency department. I mean, I'll just end here. I won't keep on lamenting. I did 2 years. I was a glorified Ketua Kampung of the emergency department hospital, Kuala Lumpur. From 1977, probably 1977 to 79 or something like that.
Which would have been absolutely, especially if you were dealing with bone traumas and stuff like that. The HKL is like the largest hospital in Peninsula.
True. But I at the emergency level, I have to refer to the orthopedics. I can't. I'll just make a diagnosis and send.
Right.
I can't treat. I won't get any follow up. I won't. I mean, I can go and follow up, but I don't get any treatment. a training in the treatment.
Right. Yeah.
I make a diagnosis and refer. So it came like that. It went on one, and time flies so fast, you
Yeah.
know. And as they say, finally the time came. Anyway, I did go. I did eventually get it all together, kumpuled, as you say, together. And I went to UK. So it ate up about 6 years of my life, that sort of thing, right?
But my second question,
Yeah,
as I
second
mentioned
question, yeah.
earlier, did that 6 years make the exams and the specialization easier for you, in your opinion?
There you go. You see, if you're having pure general surgery, pure orthopedics, and at least a bit of emergency medicine, it'll help you. But you're coming in between, going and doing some things which are not relevant to you. And when you go and do those postings, you do it with a grudge. Why am I wasting time 6 months here? You know, I had a big grudge when I was 2 years in emergency department.
Oh
I,
gosh.
I stagnated. It was a plateau already. There's no use. I had to fight, storm my way into the director's office and said, if you're not leaving me, allowing me to go, I have to take drastic action. What drastic action? Get out. Just resign. I may not have been a surgeon now. He relented. He relented.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think from your specialization journey, it's one thing that I can draw, Dr. Dave, is that inner motivation to be more than just your MBBS is so important because, like you said, you plateaued, but then you found your fire and you fought for what you wanted to go and become a doctor of.
Yes, it was more like, all this experience is going to go to waste. So
Yeah.
I said I might as well make a good show out of it.
Yeah, right. And I think that was a brilliant decision on your part, right?
Yes.
Okay. And Dr. Jayakumar, what about you? You mentioned that you did the program in NUS, and after that, because it was such a new field, right? When you finished that program and you came back, you basically had to create something new within the field of medicine.
Yes, Barbara, because when I went to MUS, I obtained a scholarship from MUS. And what I did is I took a no-pay leave from the Ministry of Health. I was still with the ministry. And when I came back, after some time, I was heading the Occupational Environmental Health Unit in Malacca. Right. And like what you mentioned, it is something new. So there's a lot of things that you will have to start the ball rolling. And it can be challenging, but there's also satisfaction because you are there to to engrave and to set things according to your taste, but it comes with challenges, right? And so that was in the ministry. So while I was in the ministry, I was also looking out, in that sense, um, of looking out for opportunities in the industry, because occupational health is a lot, occupational medicine is a lot linked with the industry workplace, and uh, after some time, many years, I got an opportunity to work in Kuantan. It's actually BSF Petronas. BSF is actually the largest chemical company in the world, a German company. So they were the major stakeholders, and I was based in Kuantan. They had a big plant. I mean, they still have a big plant there. They have their own occupational medicine clinic, 24 hours it runs. We had our own ambulance, fire team, nurses, doctors. And concurrently, after some time, I was heading the regional plants, so Southeast Asia, India, and Australia. So I was covering for regional countries. And then again, after that, I came back to the academia, right? That's how so it's something new. And but over time, I believe, especially during the COVID time, I think the importance of occupational health, it was a blessing in disguise. I mean, looking in a very positive note, uh, things are turning out better in that sense, because people start appreciating, and we need to recognize we spend a minimum of most of us spend a minimum of 8 hours in the job, right? And we can work 10 hours. So if you're looking at even 8 hours of minimum out of 24 hours, that's 1/3 of your day. So 1/3 of your life, until the sixth decade, you probably will be spending in the workplace, and there are a lot of what we call as hazards, potential. What we mean hazards is basically potentials to cause harm, and that's basically uh, the journey for occupational health, so yep.
Okay, thank you. So, you both of you have given us a lot of insights as to what your area of specialty is, and what are some of the challenges that a potential student thinking of going into your field may encounter and stuff like that. But let's talk about the actual day-to-day pros and cons in your area of specializations. We all watch a lot of TV. Most of it I would admit is very Western influence. So Dr. Dave, I see a lot of TV shows, patient having horrific breaks and so much pain, they end up breaking the doctor's arm, that sort of thing. Are those real? Do they actually happen? And for Dr. Jayakumar, people say like, oh, occupational health, you know, it's kind of like a David and Goliath situation, because you're going up and advocating for the workers or the employees against the conglomerates, making sure that things are good and proper for them. So could you maybe, let's start with Dr. Dave. What are some of the pros in the field of orthopedics?
Yes. Okay, Barbara. It's just like any other surgical specialty, but I'll be biased here because that's my specialty. When I see a patient in the ward all mangled with the limb rotated outside, pointing in a very funny way, or that sort of thing, we fix the fracture back, and the patient in a lower limb is able to walk out in a graded manner. That is the real thing for me. It is not so dramatic as life-saving and like what they show in the TV, as you said. Patient comes in there, you revive, and you defib and all that type of thing. Not usually doesn't happen in ortho. It might happen, but ours is in a more structured manner. We have a bit of time to get our thoughts together, not too much of time, and get the patient functional again, especially when the patient is related to Prof. Jayakumar's line. As you say, get back to work.
Yeah.
We get them back, and they tell them, most of the patients ask, when can I go back to work? When can I go back to work? Yes, they want to go back. So when we deliver the patient to Prof. Jayakumar and under his setup, the patient must be in ready condition to get back. Maybe not the exact peak of his abilities, but at least heading towards it in a matter of time. That's real satisfaction for me.
Yeah, and I think your field is very much with helping people gain or retain as much functionality of their physical being as much as possible, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so
not only that, their pride, pride.
Yeah.
When I say pride, means not in a bad way. Their self-esteem.
Yes.
I'm going back. I'm supporting my family. I'm not a crock. I'm not lying down. Of course, there'll be always a small percentage of people who will malinger, that sort of thing. But by far, they are all are very motivated. So that is the pros. And it is not gung-ho type of holding the knife and saying, oh, I'm the greatest surgeon on earth. No. All that. In fact, my old mentor, Prof. Iqbal, used to say, he asked us a question, if I can say here, when can you call yourself a good surgeon? Oh, we gave out, when I get my FRs here, when I do this, when I do that, when I've done that. And he said, oh, you're talking nonsense. The day you know when not to put your knife on the patient, that's the day you're a good surgeon. You see the contrast?
Yes.
Everybody can hack.
Yeah.
That is not the answer. You must know how to get the patient back with the minimum of trauma. Patient has already undergone great trauma. Don't add to it.
Yeah. I mean, there is that common saying, all surgeons are scalpel happy.
That's the wrong concept. I mean, that's the lay public, but I mean, I won't argue. That's not the forum here. This is not the forum now. But I'm trying to encourage people to do orthopedics.
I think orthopedics is a field where you've got fantastic toys to play with. It's not just the scalpel. You've got your saws, you've got your hammers, you've got your
Yeah,
chisels.
and these very cruel people have got many jokes on us also. I won't mention any of those jokes here. Right.
Okay. And well, what about you, Dr. Jayakumar? I mean, what are some of the pros of your field? Because as I mentioned, I still think it's a very much David and Goliath area of speciality.
Right. Okay. One of the things is actually, as I alluded earlier, if one were to be in the field of occupational health, I cannot be just sitting in my room, I cannot be sitting in the pedestal and writing a prescription and expecting things to work. We have to engage with people. And one of the things in occupational health, occupational medicine, we talk of the triangle. So the triangle is basically we have to engage with employers, we have to engage with employees and the unions, if there is unionized workplace. And the third is government, because government controls in terms of rules and regulations, right? We are
Mm-hmm.
governed by the acts. And when you have three major players to handle, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of challenges. And when I say excitement, because we get access to umpteen number of workplaces. I've gone from chemicals to workplaces to robotics to as low as soya bean, where they make soya sauce, black sauce, backyard um, factories, backyard illegal factories. We have gone when I was in the government, when we would go for inspection, right? And it's very exciting, and it's also very in the sense we have to read up, so there's so tons, millions, thousands of workplaces, and each workplace we have to know what are the hazards there. So each time if I'm going to a workplace, we have to look up, what are the issues there, what are the health issues there, what are the chemicals. And it is estimated there are more than 100,000 chemicals in the workplace. And it is a continuous process, and you engage with different people, and as you engage, it is a matter of negotiating sometimes on a win-win basis, and experience in workplaces. And one of the things about occupational health, I won't say everyone, depending, there are a lot of people, when they talk about occupational medicine, they say, oh, I want to work for the oil and gas. Yes, it's a fantastic place to work, but of course with money comes the stress and expectation. No one will pay, but it is very rewarding when you work with multinational companies, because the work culture is completely different. Example, when I was working with a German company, the first thing I learned in day two was punctuality. In Barbara, you are great, to start at 4 o'clock, but typically, you find a function in Malaysia. We say 5 o'clock, it'll be 5:30, and we say
Malaysian
someone
time.
is coming on the way. But what is amazing, the Germans are obsessed as the Japanese. If they say 4 o'clock, even the CEO will be there. CEO, there's no such thing as traffic jam. There's bad weather, you know. So the international exposure is fantastic, because you deal with multitude of people, cultures, work cultures. In my previous role, I was dealing Southeast Asia, in Asia, dealing with India. If you go to Pakistan, completely different. You go to Australia, is different, and each one has their own ego, and it is very you need to be very thoughtful of local cultures and work practices, but you also have to be in a situation where you can implement what is safe and healthy for the working population.
Yeah.
The another good thing about pros, of course, we have civilized working hours compared to Prof. Dave or the obstetricians. I won't say that we don't come in. Yes, when I was working in Kuantan, we don't come in. When someone there's a burns, suddenly there's an explosion or
Yeah.
falls, we do come in, but it's not common, especially multinational companies. The safety margin is they run it quite
Yeah.
well. So a better work-life balance. I enjoy that part of, I think when your work, do as much as possible, but at the end you cannot be spending all your life at work and neglecting, be a victim of your own profession, right? So that's how I look at occupational health.
Okay, right, great. Um, you know, we've discussed, it's come up a number of time in the last 40 minutes or so, how there are many similarities, and yes, that there are also differences between the two. Dr. Dave, would you like to elaborate on that? Because sometimes, Dr. Dave, your patients are referred to you by Dr. Jayakumar, or you refer patients to Dr. Jayakumar, vice versa, that sort of thing. So that's a similarity point. But in terms of differences?
Yeah, yes, Barbara, in terms of general management, where you go, you examine, you take the history, all that with the medical student is very familiar. There's not much of difference between any two surgical specialties. Yes, there are fine tuning here and there for certain systems. Like if you are a neurologist, certainly you will be approaching the patient not as an orthopedic surgeon. You're first of all not a surgeon. You're a neurologist, and your field is nerves. You go deep into it, whereby we won't go deep into it. Where in this era of specialization, when we were housemen, our boss predicted and said, when you when you retire in your 70s and 80s, there will be a right toe specialist and a left toe specialist. I'm seeing it happening in my own eyes now.
Wow.
Even a foot, in the right foot, left foot. I'm not saying the toe, but it's given a time, it'll come. It'll come. It'll come slowly. Yeah. Many people who are treating things traditionally are really relinquishing it to another specialty. Things like a liver surgeon. Last time it was general surgeon. Now it's an endocrine hepatobiliary surgeon.
That's correct.
So yeah. So basically, I look at it that the auto territory is shrinking steadily. So, I mean, maybe we can concentrate more on our stuff, what left to us. By the way, traumatology is a part of orthopedics, but it is special. It doesn't mean traumatology equals ortho equals traumatology. There is a specialty called traumatology now.
Within orthopedics?
No, without
on its own.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
These are the people who run the ED, emergency,
right.
which trauma is the major portion for them. So the purist will say, I'm not a trauma surgeon, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. He doesn't do any trauma, no fractures, nothing he does. So I'm just giving an example. Right? So there are a lot of differences, basic principles of surgery, yes, how you hold the knife, what anesthesia, what sutures, basically generally the same. Maybe only the instruments differ, but the basic principles apply. Of all surgical specialties, you have to follow certain rules and regulations, whichever specialty you are.
Yeah. Which is why it is very important that if someone is choosing where to do their MBBS, that they choose properly, because that's the foundation.
Yes.
And once your foundation is set properly, these principles are taught to you correctly and in such a way that you understand it and you're able to internalize it. I think, we've done a lot of specialization talks, and that's one of the things that I've drawn from the other speakers and now from both of you as well. It's that, if your foundation is solid, you can climb and you can build on it. So
yes,
like you said,
can I just say just a sentence or two to the aspiring doctors now, students who maybe they're impressed with somebody who gave a nice lecture and then suddenly they say, I want to do orthopedics, or guy was sleeping and talking nonsense and they say, I don't want to do orthopedics. It can be so fine, here. But let me give just a line or two to an advice to the student. Maybe we can cut it off later. Is don't decide on specialization until you have finished your housemanship or you have done at least 1 or 2 years as a medical officer. Don't plonk for anything. It's not going to help. It's only going to give you heartache, because you may not get your posting. Just in my case, I had to wait 1.5 years to be put in orthopedics proper after finishing housemanship. So give every specialty a good try.
Yeah.
You'll never know. You'll never know there's something calling you.
Yeah.
Other than what you thought you would like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That
this is one
that
thing
I
I tell
fully
my
agree.
students, yes.
Yeah, that I fully agree, you know, and that's what we advise students when they come in as well. We do ask them, do you have a speciality in mind? And some 17, 18-year-olds are very clear, but we also tell them, if you are very clear, to still keep an open mind
Open mind.
to the others. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And Dr. Jayakumar, well, you know, what's your opinion? I mean, yeah, obviously, Dr. Dave holds a scalpel. I'm going to assume you don't do surgeries at all, correct?
Yes, we hardly hold a scalpel. We keep the knife away. We don't handle the knives well.
Yeah,
And
hazards.
yes, right.
Yeah, hazards in your
Uh,
line.
right. And one of the similarities is basically, if you're looking at, one of the common jokes that we have about cardiologists is, say one day, the cardiologist won't be using a stethoscope, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
nowadays scan and, echo
Yep.
is there, right? But in occupational medicine, it's so important disease because most of the occupational diseases, if you look, they they appear after years, 10 years, 15 years. And the way how we diagnose is by getting a history, a very strong history, a very good history, right? It's basically talking with the patients, right? And one of the things that we have similarity with another field is public health medicine specialists, especially the occupational health, because we talk about health promotion, we also talk about health education, and there's a component of research. And we also do policies, say if I'm working for a workplace, if I'm engaged by a workplace, example now COVID, one of the things they will ask, okay, how do we create a safe working environment for our doctors, nurses, our healthcare professionals in the light of COVID, example COVID. So you have to come up with what we call standard operating procedures. You agree with me. The last 4 months, this word of SOP is the most utilized word that you've been hearing every week. And SOP is churned out, right? So we create policies. That's something that we have similarities with the public health medicine specialists. But in addition, in occupational medicine is we need to get to the workplace. That's something not many doctors out there do because basically we are talking about workplace hazards. If I have a patient, I have a patient
We have
who
our
comes in with,
participants mute your microphones, please. Thank
if
you.
I
Sorry
have a
for the
patient who
interruption.
comes in with asthma, and if I want to know it's a workplace related, I need to get to the workplace, right?
Yeah.
And once I go into the workplace, I will look at what we call as a risk assessment. I'll look what are the risks there, what are the hazards, what are the risks, right? Is it formalin in a hospital which can cause asthma, or is it something else, any other solvent? So that's something a bit different from other specialties.
Okay. All right. Great. So, docs, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. In closing, do you have any words of wisdom? We'll start with Dr. Dave. Any words of wisdom in addition to, keeping your mind open on your speciality?
Okay. Thank you so much, Barbara and Tanya, for all your help.
No.
And not with all the, the fine alterations here, there. Finally, I think I'm a bit relieved now. Just a bit of advice to the students. As I said just now, I'll just dilate a bit on that. Please don't make up your mind to do which specialty you want to do when you have not done any work in the general hospital on the other side of the line. That is, after when you become a houseman, the what you are experiencing now as a student will be is all visual. And you look at the back, you got, yeah, your lecturer at the back every time to refer to. When you become a houseman, you're more or less steering the ship by your own rudder. You have to make decisions, get scolded for it, get praised for it, and you have to progress. Along the way, it'll be up and down, ups and downs. And under the present system, it'll be more downs than ups. So it is only the people who persevere, who are willing to let all these downs go here and go down this way without taking things to heart, who will eventually succeed. And when I mean succeed, it doesn't mean you'll become one of the top rocket scientists or whatever. I mean, not rocket scientists, medical scientists in the country. Just mere survival, doing extremely well, being praised by your boss in housemanship and in medical officership and getting your postgraduate is, in today's terms, a great Herculean task. And if you can do it, you have done yourself very proud. I'm not talking about your parents, you have done yourself. So persevere, and under the circumstances, don't be too worried about where you go and work. Every place there is work. If only you open your eyes, do it. Okay? So we'll keep the things short, and thank you so much for being very good audiences.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dr. Jayakumar, what about you? Any words of wisdom to our future doctors here?
Yes, Barbara. If you just look at the photograph on the left, if you look at the signages, it's very confusing, right? Kecuali bus here, there's right.
Text, yeah.
Just alluding what Prof. Dave mentioned, it's just like in a journey of our medical as a student, right? You have one set of students who joins a medical course at year 1 and says, I want to be a cardiothoracic surgeon, and he or she may end up as a cardiothoracic surgeon. Another student who, like me, wanted to be an obstetrician, then decided to go orthopedics and then ended up in occupational medicine. So there can be a lot of confusions as we study, but that is part and parcel of a journey, right? I think just to add on to what Prof. Dave mentioned, right? One is we need to persevere. To have an ambition, it's fantastic, but if we don't persevere, we don't reach, just like what Prof. Dave mentioned. And we need passion. I think if you like something, we need to go for it, and attitude. Because in today's era, qualifications, you have abundance of people with qualifications, but to have the person with the right attitude and passion to work, that makes the difference. And don't get pressured with what your friend wants to do. If your friend wants to be a surgeon, wants to be a physician, don't, right? What it matters is what you are doing. Doesn't matter what others are doing. It matters what you are doing and what you enjoy doing it. Because keep in mind, once you are in a specialist route, and after 10 years, you come and say, oh, I'm working the whole day and night, but that's something that you wanted to be, right?
That's correct.
So you have to keep in mind of all that and enjoy your journey. Just borrowing a quote from Shakespeare, they say world is an oyster out there, so it is fun. It is a fantastic journey, but you need to have the right attitude and passion. With that note, thank you very much, Barbara, and ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Jayakumar and Dr. Davekumar, both from Malacca, Manipal. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in today. As I mentioned earlier, this is our Malacca Manipal Doctors Road to Specialization series. And this is part of our give back, where we want to, help prospective students thinking of joining either our foundation in science, MBBS or BDS, have some light into what they could do after 5 or 6 years with us. If you've not visited us before, we are open for campus visit. We are situated in Malacca, which is a brilliant place to live and study, I must say, and a friendly community where everyone, including your patients, will treat you as one of their own. We have a question, but I think it may be that I'm misreading the question, and I'm just going to rephrase the question. Now, both of you did your fellowships with the Royal Colleges. Could you just help our viewers understand? Is it like you register as a member of the Royal College and then you write for the exams, but you continue working where you're working? What is that part like? Maybe Dr. Jayakumar, you could share something on that.
Okay, it depends on what field. If you are doing if you are looking at occupational medicine, it comes under the Royal College of Physicians, right? And Royal College of Physicians, they have in Ireland, they have in UK, And of course, they have in Scotland. But for occupational medicine, I know they have in Ireland, they have in UK. I'm not sure about Scotland. They probably have, right? So, the Irish, if a person is interested in a route for specialization, there is a route, the UK route. But the UK route, the student will have to go to UK to sit for the exams and do the attachment there. Whereas the Irish route, it's more flexible, where the exams are conducted in Malaysia.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the difference. And fellowship is after 10 years, typically after 10 years, where you have some form of uh, they will actually vet through your work
Right.
experience, contribution to the medical field in your respective field. Uh,
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for helping us clarify that. And thank you both once again for spending your Saturday with us. And to our viewers, if you are still shopping around for a place to do your MBBS, we hope you will consider talking to us at Malacca Manipal. We are one of Malaysia's oldest and most established private and medical dental college. In terms of our dental program, we've got over 30,000 patients a year available for you to practice during your clinical years. And for our MBBS students, we've got over 1,000 patient beds that is tied up with the hospitals in Malacca and Johor, the states of Malacca and Johor for our clinical years. Like I said, we are located in the multicultural city of Malacca, and we've got globally experienced faculty such as Dr. Davekumar and Dr. Jayakumar from the departments of community medicine and orthopedics that will help you, as you go along your years of studies, defining what you want to be and helping you explore each area of study as you go. In the words of Carl Jung, to close, medicine cures diseases, but only doctors cure patients. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. If you're not following us on Facebook, please do. It's Triple MC Malaysia. I repeat, Triple MC Malaysia. Our doctor specialization series will continue in August with the topics of mother and child, featuring pediatrics and obstetrics and gynecology, as well as the North Point, which will cover ophthalmology, ear, nose, and throat. Tune in to our Facebook page for announcements on those dates. We wish you a pleasant weekend and a great week ahead. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
right. Thank you.
Done.